be powerful conversation. Communication and storytelling is quite powerful. Let's have a look. He's coming in now, guys. Sorry for the delay. Let's get the question. Okay, here we are. Let me check myself live on YouTube. Thanks, guys, for waiting. We really, really appreciate you coming. Major Williams is here. We have the camera in the back going on. Major Williams is on his way. I want to make sure we're live on YouTube. Let me have a look at myself. Really, we're going to talk about the power of communication. Major Williams is someone who, across industries, being a governor of California, running for governor, this is quite powerful. How can you use your voice, your influence, right? Influence is needed now more than ever, really, for you to be able to get your voice and your mission out there. There's so many people here who are mission driven, who have been aiming to accomplish big things in life. And I think this will be your opportunity for you guys to have that, essence and someone who can come in and speak and inspire. Because the way you communicate is everything, is literally everything. So we have Major Williams coming. For those of you guys who are on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. We're just getting everything ready right now. Just give it a second. There you go. This is quite exciting. I'm quite excited to be here. Let us know where you're from. Feel free to ask questions. We're always here for answers. Sorry for you guys. Yeah, man, exciting. Okay, so we are on YouTube. Give it a second. Shouldn't say live show. It's Major Williams. So it's come up as there. Yes, thanks for joining. Welcome to. It should say Major Williams Q&A. I don't know why it's saying live show, but maybe you just fix that. Coming in. 1 second, guys. Let us know where you're from and where you are calling from. Just looking at the live session here. Yeah. YouTube, it should have the main thumbnail. But for those of you guys who are on LinkedIn, thanks for joining us. We really, I keep yawning today. Crazy. Let's have a look. Major's, he's coming into his office now for us to record this podcast, so he will be here very shortly. Let me just have a look on my channel. I really, guys, want the guys on YouTube to join, where we have this amazing thumbnail, because I think it's a really cool thumbnail. And yeah, I'm really excited to bring this conversation to you guys on how we can talk, partner, and build. So let us know where you're from. Comment below. I'm Sujir Rubasha. I'm the CEO of ETS Rubasha Media. We've been helping entrepreneurs and CEOs all around the world build their personal brands, get their voices out there. So partnering with Major on this is something that aligns with us as well. There we go. Thanks, Major, for joining. Thanks for joining, Major.
Absolutely, my brother. Thanks for having
No
Thanks for
worries.
having me, man.
No worries, no worries. I'm just making sure everyone's live. There you go. Cool. What I might potentially do is go live on Instagram as well, and then maybe we can go live at the same time, because we're live on every other platform. Let me go live on Instagram.
Fantastic.
Cool. Okay. I think we're good to go. Let me press record. Yeah, it's recording. How are you today?
Say it again.
I said, how are you? Is the connection coming across all good? You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you pretty good, man. Everything is great. No complaints.
Awesome. Okay, thank you guys so much for joining in. I'm here with the one and only Major Williams, governor, entrepreneur, family man, who's been able to use his imagination to create, the depths and really activating your voice, how your communication unlocks opportunity. Obviously, just having your new book that has come out, Use Everybody, turning your connections, your voice into currency. And really, I really love the notion of your network isn't just who you know, but it's how you activate them. So really welcome to have you on, and definitely love to hear you talk and speak about what made you come out with this book and where you are in your life at the moment.
No, absolutely. Thank you once more for having me on, my friend. Listen, for me, the concept of I've always been a rebel, right? And so when it comes to certain terminology, I've always kind of went against the grain. And if you remember, psychologically, we are wired to believe that when you say I'm gonna use someone, it's very malicious, right? And but if I look at my entrepreneur journey over the last 25 plus years in every industry that I've worked in, I've actually used many people, and many people have actually used me. And what I mean by that is there's a mutual benefit for us using each other, leaning on each other as a resource and an ally to achieve and accomplish certain successes. And so, what I wanted to do, I knew it would be something that would be eye catching to people to really get the people going, so to speak. But I really did it from a place of taking a negative connotation, turning it into a positive force, but also reprogramming the mindset of those who sometimes feel like they're stuck. But in hindsight, you have so many more resources that you haven't even tapped into that are in your phone book, that people that are your next door neighbor. And so you have to use everybody, use all of your resources when you're trying to accomplish massive success or get over that finish line when it comes to certain goals that you want to accomplish. And so I wanted to use this book and this body of work to highlight that and also to activate people to understand what that truly means, especially if there's a mutual benefit of using each other.
Yeah, I think it's quite powerful, when you talk about it, because like that negative connotation straight away when you say, use everybody. But can you give us an example? Give us a practical example. Like you said, you have your phone book, and people that you know. But can you give us a practical example of one can use everyone to build their empire?
So, say for instance, when I first got to LA, my cousin Quinn Ross, he played for the Clippers for 4 years, right? And so I would go to all of the games. But in college, I used to cut hair to have money to eat on the weekends, and so I developed this skill set to be able to cut not only my hair but other people's hair, so I can have weekend money to eat. But then once I moved to LA, my cousin was in NBA, and I say, listen, let me cut your hair. Like that can be like an opportunity, and he would pay me to cut his hair. But the more I was around him, I was able to cut other people's hair as well. But I would have him to do an introduction. So that is a case of me using my cousin and his leverage with familiarity with other players, and they would trust him because of the introduction that was done by him. But if I was someone that was timid and just tried to go around and just reach out to them myself, with them not knowing who I was, it may have been a little bit more challenging to get into that particular situation or gain that opportunity or trust. So I used my cousin, right, to make that introduction, which gave me opportunities, which eventually gave me new clients. So that's a very simplistic foundational example, but you can apply that in any different sector or industry that exists because many people do it on an everyday basis, but they just wouldn't categorize it as using someone.
Mm. So it's obviously, like the way you did it, you were able to put yourself in the right position as well, and then you had value to give. So you're not just using someone to maybe take, but it's like you had value to give, and it also made him look good as well because it's like, oh, I'm adding value to the people that are coming through.
No, absolutely. One thing that you don't want to do is that you don't want to waste people's time, and you also don't want to waste an introduction. That's one thing that I learned from some of my mentors and even my coaches when I played sports. If you're going to show up, if you're going to participate, at minimum, make sure that you're prepared to add value and make sure that you're on time and make sure that you show up and give your best during those particular moments. So I'm always very loud and vocal about that with clients that I speak to on my strategy calls every single week. It's one thing to get that introduction, but it's still going to be on you to close. And in order to close, I'm sure you know this, you have to be prepared. You have to know the landscape of that particular opportunity that you're going to try to extract and get that closure. So that's very extremely important.
Mm. And I think this is going to segue into the next topic, really on the power of influence and the way you've been able to brand yourself. Really, on top of even taking advantage, I'll give you an example. Like, you can make an introduction to someone, like, I'll go in, make an introduction, but on the back end, if you now don't have a personal brand, or if you're not there prepared to go in and this person asks, okay, who is, like, what can you do? Then you don't take advantage of that opportunity. And I've seen that situation happen. And it's like, there's only so much I can do to hand you the layup. But again, if you haven't been putting in the reps to build that brand, when I make you that introduction, what's that person going to do? They're going to say, okay, what's your Instagram? What's your socials? Let me see it. And if you're not prepared, then you lose that deal. So can you talk to us a little bit about, again, this topic of personal brand, which is something people are searching for now more than ever. It's why people look up to you, Major. It's why people have been in this live. It's why we're doing this, is because you've built a brand. It's why you can go in the room with Patrick Bet David and do a podcast, or you can run for, governor of California, or you can run for this, or you can start your own political party. Really, that's really the package around influence, and you talk about that deeply in your book. So can you talk a little bit about, for the people there to really understand exactly what we're talking about here?
Well, sure. The power of influence, it correlates to not only in business, it correlates with your family, it correlates with your friendships, it correlates with your partnerships. Having influence means different things to different people, but for me, I categorize it on how am I able to add value, impact, and influence others. So that is my personal mantra, right? And when it comes to influence, when creating my brand, I knew that I want to take people on a journey. I was a person who went viral 16 years ago because I had this insane ideal to drop ship a bus stop. And what I mean by that, before people say, "What is that?" So I had this concept and this ideal after leaving a karate shop with my wife and my kids, and we were walking up the street to a Mexican restaurant, and I looked across the street and I saw a pretty barren bus stop. It was just a regular bench, and it had an old faded advertising on the back of it. Instantly, because I was reprogramming and rewiring myself, listening to people like Ty Lopez, listening to people like Gary Vaynerchuk, and this is 15 years ago, right? And so I was always looking at opportunities out there, and I really believe that you can go from $0 to $10,000 a month. I believe that you can go from $10,000 a month to making your first million. And I'm a person who have raised myself to not have excuses. So in going viral, what I did was I took my phone out, I took a picture of that bus stop, then I actually called the number that was on the bus stop, and I spoke with the operators of it, and I asked them how much did it cost to advertise on that bus stop. They said it was around $2,000 at that time, and I said, okay, that's great. Is there any way that, excuse me, is there any way that I could work for you guys as an affiliate for free? If I bring you your business and get you $2,000, would you allow me to speak on your behalf to get advertising on your bus stop? First, they laughed at me. They thought this guy is crazy. But to do me a favor for my ambition, they said, you know what? Not only will we allow you to do it, we'll give it to you. If you get that serviced, we'll give it to you for $500. So in the beginning of it, I had a markup of $1,500 that I can have for profit, but I put another 500 on it so I can have $2,000. And so I went home, I photoshopped 40 different businesses photos on that bus stop. And I just hit the ground running for 2, 3 weeks. And I finally got the first client advertising it. And I went far and beyond using my influence, knowing the community, knowing the data. I would tell the store owner when traffic was coming, how long they would be at the light, when school was out, how many kids walked in that particular section, what park was close to it. And I think they were just so impressed by the extended data and details that I share. They just say, you know what, let's try it out. And I had that bus stop for 3 years. So no money, got creative, used my influence to go in there and pitch and market, and got these huge accounts. And I was able to share that philosophy with many other people that were able to go and do it as well. So influence is everything. Like I say, it applies to when you're out courting, trying to date. It applies to when you have partnerships in business. It applies to when you are negotiating, certain opportunities for yourself. So influence is everything, and not everyone understands that, but there is a mastery to it.
Mm. So like real quick, you said you had photoshopped like a different business and put it in and then presented them and said, "Is this what it would look like when it's on? This is what the image would look like." Is that what you did?
Yeah, so I would go to their website. I would see what they're all about. This is over 40 different companies. I would see what they're all about. If they had a slogan, I would take their slogan and probably add something cool to it, and I would Photoshop their logo and an ad ready made on the bus stop. So when I reached out to them or I went into their businesses with my laptop, they were able to see a visual of what their ad would look like on that street, on that actual bus stop. And no one was really doing that creatively, and it took me no money to do that. And I had that bus stop on lock for 3 years. So just imagine I'm making $2,000 a month, and then I scaled it and got at one point up to 20 bus stops that I controlled, did all the advertising for, just off of a creative ideal and the willingness to have the guts to call them and say, hey, I want to work for free, but I know that I'm able to do this using my influence.
So the wait, so like when you say 2 grand a month, so for you to did you go like did you have to go to the bus stop people and say how much would you get it for them so you can make a profit on that? Because if they're aren't they selling it for 2 grand a month?
Right. So as I mentioned in the story, the bus stop, when I called them, the operator said that they sell it for $2,000 a month. By me offering my services, they thought I was crazy. And so for me specifically, they said, we'll give it to you if you book it for $500, which is why I said I started out with a $1,500 profit because I was going to sell it for $3,000, right? But I only ended up selling it for another 500 because I was getting profit for me at that particular time because I had little to no money, right? And so because of no one has ever approached them like that, and they didn't think I was going to be successful. And regardless, at the end of the day, I was fulfilling something that had been vacant for months. As I mentioned, that ad was all worn and torn. No one was advertising there. It was dormant, right? And I came in livening it up with new opportunities and revenue, which not only made them look good, right? It also, gave me an opportunity.
Mm. And I love that so much because I was reading a book, Diary of a CEO, and he talks about this concept of like when you walk into the Apple store. You see, when you go into the Apple store, you can go in and they let you play with the iPhones. You can go in there and experiment them. So all the companies who strategically allow you to see the product, to feel it, to touch it firsthand, usually are the ones who make sales and they kill it really well. And that's the same thing that you did. You let them touch it, you let them feel it, you let them visualize it, seeing it on their bus, which was genius. You know what I mean? So it's like they could already see it. So it's like, oh shit, like how can we make this into reality? And it's the same concept of what these big companies do, the same as Apple, right? Again, when you walk into the Apple store, you can go in and touch and physically feel all those products. So, man, that's so like you see, but you see, Major, that's another thing though. Like, I don't know, how do you teach that? Because not only did you do that, but it wasn't easy. You had to go to what did you say, 40 companies? That's not easy. So, like, can you talk to? Have you always had that? I mean, you used to be lowing lawns, on your yard and doing things like that. So can you talk to us a little bit about that grind? How do you teach that, man? And the discipline.
I think the foundation, yeah, foundationally, how you teach it is you have to reprogram yourself You have to shift your actual mindset. And once you start, one of the greatest things that changed my entire trajectory, to be honest with you, is my commitment to read. I spent 2 years in the public library over 15 years ago. And it was during the time where I had stepped away from music as a music artist and producer and a songwriter. And I just felt like I was stuck and I wanted to become more. I wanted to become smarter. I wanted to become a better thinker, right? And I had no mentors. I had no one to extract that knowledge or that guidance from. And so the best thing I had was the public library. And I spent 2 years in that library. And to be frank, that was actually on the second year, that's when my mind was working differently. I'm actually looking at the world a lot differently. So that's when I did the bus stop thing, is because I was well read. I was reading all these great stories of these great entrepreneurs, these great businessmen, these great negotiators, these psychologists who were using their minds and their brains to be creative. And I think one thing that we miss as adults, which we have to figure out a way to get back to, is when we're young, we feel like we have this aura of superpower with our athleticism, with our views, and we have this abundance of creativity and art, and just think that we can do anything in the world for the most part. And I think we have to learn how to carry that over into our adult lives, because there's this saying that says that life starts lifing and then it starts to change the dynamics of your perspective of the world. Well, we can't allow that to happen, right? And so I've have fought many years and create. I basically consider myself the crash test dummy, right, in regards to going through the trial and error, so I could share this message and the things that I've done, so other people can go out and try to enrich their lives as well. And that was one of my main motivations. I truly wanted to become a multimillionaire off of my ideals, off of being creative, off of using my imagination. And I guess the second part comes down to not being afraid to speak, not being afraid to get better as a communicator. I learned that a good 98% of people don't read zero point 0.5 books a year. And so I don't know if you've heard this, that if you read 5 books on one subject, you now become the authority on that particular subject, because people, adults, are not well read. Like, there are people that have read books in 20, 30 years or have ingested any new information. And so if you just take that initial step to ready yourself, prepare yourself, uh, it's unlimited on what you can accomplish, because those principles that you learn from those individuals that you're reading about, and you apply those, you'll start to see the fruit of your labor, sooner than later, I will say.
Quite powerful, that being able to not only read that but execute and apply it in your life. So, talking about public speaking, which is something that I know you teach. Again, you talked about this quite in the book, but how does one go about, perfecting that craft on public speaking? What are some stories that you have within your life where you were able to own it? Because I do find it so valuable, the art of public speaking. Are you kidding me? For you to be able to be there, and instead of having one-to-one meetings with people, now you have one-to-many. So now you can sell your services one-to-many, and then not only that, that goes into your business, and then you can get paid for it. So you're getting paid to be a public speaker. But then again, when you're public speaking and then you're able to present yourself well, those are people coming into your business. So it's a game changer. So how can one, not only learn from someone in you, but like, what are stories that you have within your life that you perfected this craft?
So there's multiple stories, but there was a situation where I had recently where my 14-year-old son came to me. We were speaking in the kitchen, and he was like, "How do you speak so fluently on the fly and always have something to say?" And for me, explaining it to a 14-year-old kid, you have to give the context that it's taken years and years and years of actual practice, right, to get to this particular point. But I'm also a byproduct of being a music artist and a rapper and a songwriter. So I've always had words and songs and melodies that I've memorized that are in my head. I also played basketball, right, on a large enough level where there was thousands of people that were watching me. So it was a combination of being comfortable with words, comfortable with speaking in front of people, comfortable being in front of people while I was speaking as well. But I didn't always have this talent. There was something that was developed. There was something that was intentional. When I was a freshman in college, I went to Trinity Valley Community College. I never forget after the first day of practice, our head coach, after practice, took me by my hand, walked me across the entire campus, and walked me into a classroom. I never forget this. And in that classroom was Mrs. I think her name was Mrs. Till, and she was a speech teacher, right? My dialect, because I'm from the South, it was so bad, and every other word was huh, every other word was a cuss word, every other word was just slang. And he had just had enough of it after the first day of practice. So, mind you, I get in there, I'm offended. I'm so upset that this guy is looking at me like I can't speak or talk. I go to my dorm room. Back at that time, we had payphones. So I did a collect call back to my mother, and I was telling her, I was like, man, this guy is crazy. He's racist. He's saying I can't talk. He took me to the speech class. But when I tell you, after the first 2 weeks, it made sense. You never know how hard it is to get in front of people just to say your name and where you're from and what your interests are. I thought I was this big, bad, tough guy, but I couldn't even. I had so much nerve. I was so nervous in front of just a class of 25 people, right? And that in itself made me say, you know what? I need to get better at this because I don't like being afraid. I don't like the fact that I'm up here shaking. I don't like the fact that, I just feel these crazy nerves where I can't even deliver like what are my hobbies or do it fluently enough to where it's understandable. And I guess the last point I would share is that one thing that I told my son, I said, when you're speaking, wouldn't it make you feel better if what you said actually connected with people? So listen, everyone can talk, everyone can speak, but not everyone can communicate. And once you understand that and start putting intention behind becoming a better communicator, a better storyteller, and encompassing that with your authority and your expertise, then the sky is it isn't even the limit for what you can do in this world. So communication is powerful and it's key for everything that we're doing, encompassed with the personal branding, delivering your message, talking about your product, talking about the book Use Everybody, talking about you and all the adventures that you and your family are a part of. You have to be able to tell that story to where it resonates with people because sometimes people don't remember what you say, but it's more so about how did you make that person feel? Did you remember their name? Did you have a firm handshake? Were you an observant listener, right? And were you able to take what you heard and give them back feedback that resonated with them in a sense that made them feel like you actually cared about what the conversation was about?
Exactly. People don't remember exactly who you are or what you said, but how you made them feel. Quite powerful. A little bit on the deals that you've been able to make, and actually on the public speaking note, let's say they are learning from you. You've inspired someone. How does one go about getting booked to be a keynote speaker? What's that process like?
So for me, because I like to do introductory. So I've set up what we call 30-minute, 60-minute strategy calls. And I give everyone my phone number. I'm very open about it. It's a public phone number, 626-623-3753. And basically people just text me strategy. And then we get on the phone and we kind of work out what areas they want to strengthen because every person isn't different and everyone is at different levels when it comes to speaking. Because some people are very vocal. They can speak and they're not afraid to get on stage, but they really don't connect, or they really can't tell a story, or they really can't stay on topic the entire way, or they haven't had a framework for an actual serious speech. So, someone like me, one of my speeches is called Use, which is unlock, shift, and execute. And my framework stays within that, which is relatable to the actual book. So, that's what we discuss on those calls. So we start out with an introductory call with me. It's a strategy call. and we just kind of see what their needs are. And then from there, I would recommend maybe like PS 101, which is public speaking 101, or the Activate Your Voice course that's very popular right now.
Wow, yeah, powerful. And on a different segue, I heard you almost died at Jamie Foxx's house. Can you talk to us about that? That seems like a crazy story itself.
Yeah, you know what? It was so long ago, but it's when you have that type of experience, obviously it's still it's etched in your brain, and it's pretty straightforward and simple. I spent a lot of time with Jamie Foxx, probably over 15 years. His sister's one of the best human beings that I know. We actually went to high school and graduated together. Jamie Foxx's dad was my high school history teacher and football coach, so we are intertwined, just from a family perspective. But this particular time, I was hanging out at his house a lot because I was doing music with Foxhole Records with his music label, and we were just all hanging out. And for some strange reason, I had this allergic reaction, and we were in his theater room, and we were just all hanging out. And I don't know if he was there at the time, but I just know that something was off, and I started getting these hives, and then all of a sudden my throat started to swell, and so when that happened, we got kind of alarmed, and probably within 60 seconds of noticing that my throat was swelling, it closed, and I couldn't breathe. My airway had closed, and I was scrambling for air, and then eventually, from what I'm told, I blacked out, and I literally was unresponsive. Luckily, a young lady was there at the time with us as well, and she started performing CPR on me until the paramedics came. And so, literally, the paramedics, I guess, came and they whisked me up, and and got me back breathing. And I just gave me an EpiPen shot, just kind of like help. It was like a penicillin shot. Took me to the hospital for observation. And what was cool though, when I woke up and my eyes opened, just imagine waking up from a traumatic event like that, and Jamie Foxx is standing right over you, and his sister, holding my hand, and then he's such a great guy, but he makes everything funny. It was like, and I forgot the exact words. He said, "Man, you better not die in my house," type of joke. So he was already like bringing cheer to the room and over the situation, man. So shout out to Jamie Foxx. He's an amazing person. He actually took care of all the medical bills and the medicine that I needed afterwards. So man, nothing but huge support and gratitude for Jay Fox.
Wow. And kind of staying in that topic of within the entertainment industry, you're an entrepreneur and you've been in the political field. I wanted to ask you like what's that been like, also doing music while you're being an entrepreneur. Sometimes I'll go and I still do to this day. I have things in my imagination where it's like I have my favorite artist and then I'll do a recreation of their songs, and people have told me like you're an entrepreneur. Why are you making those videos? And I never listened to anyone. I tuned it out because like I followed my creativity. I followed my heart. So like people still tell me, and I don't listen to them, right? So I wanted to ask for you, like, and that's why I saw myself in you a little bit because I'm like, man, and it inspired me to keep doing that and not to listen to people, even though there's no one really in my lane doing it. Like when I'll do a music video, there'll be swear words, but it's like I'm acting. It's like I'm in my Hollywood world. You know what I mean? So I wanted to ask, like, from your advice on that, like, how were you able to do that? And did you hear the same type of talk and feedback when you're doing this? But you said, look, you can't just put me in this lane. I'm a creative. I can do what comes through my mind. So can you talk a little bit about that?
No, absolutely. I think a lot of people struggle with identity crisis, and not the individual, but people that are watching the other people as they grow and evolve. So for someone like myself, I actually started out in sports and music. So I have been doing it. I built my following um, from being a music artist, songwriter, and producer. The politics only came way after that, and entrepreneurship was always intertwined in that, being an independent artist as well. But I would say this, and my advice to you, just remember this story. They really had people boycotting when the first cars were made. Like imagine that mindset. right? Everything seems unfamiliar, and people are not quick to adapt to change or even evolution. People were really picketing and protesting against cars because they were too loud or they were too clunky. They wanted their horse in their little buggy in their carriage, right? And so if you see people that um, protest against something that's changed the entire industrial revolution of what we are now today, then just know that it can happen to you as well. But what you can't fall into is allowing other people's opinion to sway what you want to do in your life. And everything is a season. Like I still love doing music. You know, I submit music to video games. I have music that's on Netflix right now, and even when I post content, it may not be, you may not even notice, but the music that's playing is actually my music that's on iTunes, and I'm getting streaming dollars from it, right? So there's different ways on how you can do that. But I will say this, and you know, just to come full circle, um, there is a time and place for certain things, and sometimes you have to make those adjustments for certain time periods. But I always think that there is a way to blend it. There is a way to do it to where it makes sense. And mind you, it really just have to make sense to you, right? And you could be the one who changes people's mind on how you enter into this. I've always considered myself more than, right? And so it's nothing wrong for you to see yourself as more than. You can be an entrepreneur, you can be a music artist, you can be into entertainment and acting, you can do all of those things. But just know that criticism comes with the territory. And so, in knowing that, don't let it affect your spirit or your perspective. Just continue to push forward, and don't let it, dampen your appeal to what it is that you're building. Remember, you haven't you've accomplished some things, but you haven't even touched the peak of what you're going to become. Like it's so fresh and it's still so new. You need 20 more years of doing it to see if you actually did it right, right? You can't be doing it for a couple of years or 10 years even. You got to keep pushing at the end of the day. So my advice, keep going, stay spirited. It's going to connect with who it's supposed to connect with. You know, you'll see me doing music, then you'll see me doing Bible study as well. You
Mm.
know, because no one can overly judge me because I know what I'm rooted in. And my Bible study, my Majoration Bible study is a powerful group, right? But at the same time, I'm still over here in politics. I'm still in business, still an entrepreneur. And every now and then I drop a music video that I just randomly had um, the ideal to do it, and I just do it. And I just put it out there, just for fun, right? Because you can. So keep doing it, brother.
Thank you so much. I really love that. And just before we segment off and end the show, a couple more questions. Quickly, a little bit about the mentorship community that you are, gathering around together. It's not easy to be a man nowadays, and it's not easy, right? It's hard. And then I wanted to ask a little bit. You can kind of answer two questions in one, but also the notion of patience as well. To be effortlessly patient in what you're doing and building. And we live in a world of instant gratifications and people want things now. I understand it, but the role of patience. So this mentorship community that you're gathering, with like-minded individuals and visionaries, and also, being able to mix that patience in whatever you guys are doing out there to achieve your goals, and to know that great empires, they don't get built overnight.
No, absolutely. That's a great question. The Majoration Members Only Club is very special to me because it's a byproduct of me not being accepted into certain circles and certain groups. And so instead of bashing those individuals or feeling kind of ill, any kind of ill will towards them, God just put it on my spirit and reminded me, it was like, you can go and create your own situation, right? Like that's just the world that we live in. I can create the exact same thing. It may not be as big as what that is right now, but I go and create and foster this whole new movement with people that I'm aligned with. I consider myself a God loving family guy, alpha male, very masculine. I love life. I love giving back. And what I started to experience is that if I seen a remnants of that in certain groups, it just wasn't really receptive to someone new coming in. So I had to respect that. So I went and created my own situation. So I want to be aligned with purposeful individuals, men who love their wives, men who honor and protect and uplift and guide their children, men who think beyond the right now, men that are not interested in going to the bar. And it's not a knock to anyone who does, right? Uh, Men that when we talk, it's not about gossip. It's not about women. It's not about lust. It's not about any of that. It's about what can we do to build our kingdoms individually and collectively together. And so I didn't see any of that out there really. And so I said, you know what? Why do I create this for myself? Wherever I start, however big it is right now, I know that it's going to turn into something big because the intention is there. And so the Major Ration Members Only Club is probably 72 of us right now, and I just launched it like 2 months ago, 2 3 months ago. It's not bad, and it's just really about being around great conversations, people that are aligned with the right perspective and mindset, all different ages, all different ethnicities, just kingdom-driven men that are living life purposeful, and that's why I created that particular that particular group. And what was the second half of that?
The second half of the question, which I love that exactly what you said, to be able to for men to be in this group, and they can contact you in the link in the description for more. The balance of ambition, when you're completely driven and you're going somewhere, but also mixing that with patience and having the patience to know that things are not going to happen overnight.
So one of the famous words that my household makes fun of me as I have certain key words that I use, because my son would describe me as being very stoic. It's like, man, you're always so calm when things are just so erratic and crazy. And it's just because I believe in pace. So that is a word that I think a lot of people should adopt. So pace and aggressive patience. So I use aggressive patience. So that means that I'm properly planning and strategizing always, but it doesn't have to happen right now overnight, right? I'm preparing for the actual marathon, like Nipsey Hussle says. Like, I believe in the marathon. I believe in longevity because once you go through those type of steps, that's actually the good part. What's going to inspire people is not going to be my bank account. It's going to be the actual story on how I got to those milestones. At the end of the day, that's what's going to make you legendary. That in between part, not the shiny stuff at the end of it, the dollar amount or seeing people getting the award. The most valuable part of it was that middle part, that struggle, that uncertainty, those highs and those lows. Those are the special places where you really gain the best value, that inspires you, that encourages you, that uplifts you, that really gives you that feeling that you can do anything in the world. So my most powerful word that I use often is pace, and I use aggressive patience. I have aggression in everything I do, which is rooted in structure, discipline, strategy, and consistency and discipline. But it's always still patient because I understand that it doesn't have to happen right away, but it's happening.
But it's happening. Amen. Amen. Okay, last question before we leave here. Major, would you ever run for public office again? Because I saw that clip you shared with Joe Rogan, which I was like, that's the top of the top podcasters. You had PBD. I was like, man, this guy's taking over the world. Again, what I love is every time I go on my phone, I'm more of a creator. So if I'm coming, I'm usually just coming to post, because I try to post 25 times a day. And the other person I keep seeing is you up there, man. And I was like, every time I see Major, it's like I'm competing with him. You know what I mean? I'm like, yep, if he's there, there's not one day where I can't be on they got to know my face, which is what people don't understand, but we get it subconsciously. So, can you talk to us a little bit about that? Because when you're doing what you're doing at that level, man, you could do anything. So can you talk? Is that something that you're looking to get back into?
So currently, right now, I would say that it's something that I have my ear towards, not necessarily my eyes towards. Right. Um, the 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 initial push When I did it the first time, there was a tap by God. God gave me that tap, that acknowledgement, that push. And, there's a story that I share about my grandfather that is really the reason why I ran. My grandfather passed away some years ago. His name is L.J. Dean. But from being a spiritual person, I have this certain connection with him, especially when I'm dealing with like a tough decision that I want to make. And he comes to me and he talks to me all the time. I know it may sound crazy to people, but I'm just really emotionally and spiritually connected to my family members that have passed and my ancestors. And I use them during those moments and I pray to hear voices, pray to hear signs. Sometimes God speaks to me through my six-year-old son. Sometimes sometimes God speaks to me through one of my friends. And I'm just always, I have those receptors always just at attention because you just never know where that advice may come from, right? And so he came to me one night and he basically said two words. He says, step up. And that was the reason why I eventually ran. And right now, my ear is towards it, but my eyes are not. And that's just like the best example that I can give in regards to my standing. I know I have the name ID. I know that I still have a fire in my belly for the love of the state of California. And I'm not excited about the candidates that are currently in the race, but I'm also along, than I did last time. Last time I ran for 2 years. I don't look forward to running for 2 years this time. But we'll see what the future holds. I definitely have to have a lot of support and a lot of momentum going forward. But I'm not counting it out. But my eyes are on my family. My eyes are on building a personal brand and making lasting connections and helping people transform their lives right now.
Powerful. But just on that, is there any hope for California? Because from what I've seen on my end, it looks like I don't know what's happening out there. What are your thoughts on it? How do they turn around what's happening in California at the moment?
You know what? It's going to have to start from a foundation of local officials getting in place, and then we have to focus on getting better representation for the actual state, and also in the assembly, the ones that are writing the laws that are affecting so many Californians. There was something that just came out recently that says that we are on the verge of having $8, a gallon for gas. This is a state that has homelessness that's had 28 plus billion dollars lost, but yet the homelessness continues to rise. And I said this back 2 years ago. I said homelessness will never go anywhere because it's an actual work industry. Whenever you create an industry around something, people don't want to lose their jobs. If homelessness is cured, guess what? So many people will not have jobs. Think about that. So why would they rush to do the best job possible so they can end homelessness, right? Those programs that exist, they won't be funded anymore if homelessness doesn't exist, right? And so I think it's a money laundering scam in regards to how they're approaching it. You have crime still um, being something that's a detriment to our communities, to our small business owners. Just so much more that we have to do here to turn it around. But it starts on the local level and then in the state and in the assembly.
Cool. Okay. Well, you heard it here first, Major. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your word. Like, I think we're changing the game with these conversations every now and again. I mean, from the first podcast to this now, and just to continue evolving and growing. Again, I personally purchased your book. I've read it myself. I'm still reading it. Some of the principles we're using with our team and the training. So this is for anyone who's reading this. You can get it. It's about $9. I got, people, you spend that much money on food. You know what I'm saying? So to be able to go and spend it into something that's gonna your spiritual food in terms of your business, and that it's so valuable. I can't stress the importance of reading and executing on that information. And yeah, like you said, it's about influence and using everyone. So thank you so much. Is there any one of the last messages you want to leave with the people watching?
Sure. I would just say if you're someone that's feeling like you're stuck and feeling like you um, have had a tough break in life, just know that one decision could change your life. And statistically speaking, when people have systems in place and they have belief in themselves, a byproduct of that is results. And so when you eliminate excuses, you dig deep and look to others who are doing well and use them as inspiration and continue to show up every single day and be prepared. And I know that, um, I know that it's possible because I'm a byproduct of that. I consider myself a late bloomer, but I've been able to affect many, many lives. And every single day, every single week, I'm talking to people that have very similar stories. So your story is your story, but just know that other people are going through things as well, and they're able to overcome it. And so, what I would hope for and what I would pray for you is that you get over whatever it is that you're going through, find that solution, believe in yourself, stay consistent, take it one day at a time, and stay aggressive and patient, but keep the pace.
Keep the pace. Cool. Love it. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks so much, Major, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you.